Haiti, Haiti, Haiti. What's going on with Haiti? On Wednesday morning over in Haiti, they were greeted with the news of an assassination, the assassination of their president. I believe that would have been the first assassination of a president in Haiti for the last about 100 years. That's not to say that Haiti isn't plagued by political instability and political violence too, but the specific assassination of a president hasn't been an actual very frequent thing. In my mind, when I was thinking about Haiti, I was thinking and I felt like I remembered another assassination, but I was wrong. When I actually checked it, it turns out that this is in fact a pretty new step and a pretty different step even in Haiti, even in the unique climate that they have over there. Things are difficult with Haiti, and it's not just because of the assassination of their president. Things were difficult before the assassination of their president. Things were difficult before that president even came into power. Things have been difficult in Haiti. I don't think things have ever been easy for Haitians living in Haiti, because from the time Haiti won its independence, Haiti was the first country to fight and win their independence from slavery and colonialism. They fought, they threw off the oppressive French from them, and then a few years later, the French rolled in with some warships and demanded that they have to now pay back the colonists that they took the land from. Yes, the French did that, and they put Haiti under debt for nearly like a century, and that gave Haiti a struggling start to their new republic. And since then, Haiti never really caught themselves. For nearly 50 years of their existence, somewhere between 1950s to the 1980s, they were ruled by a father-son combo, Papa Duck and Baby Duck, the Duvalier family, I believe they were. And if you followed from I can't remember which day that video it was. 2 days ago or something like that. The video where I was speaking about the senator who was accusing the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago of being some terrible things. One of the things he used in his accusation is he called the Prime Minister Papa Duck. And that is who he was referring to. That Haitian dictator who ruled Haiti from the 1950s for nearly 20 years. For I think over 20 years, and did some really horrible stuff. And some of the results of that can still be felt coming down, all the way down even to present time. And one of the problems is, how exactly does anyone solve what is going on in Haiti? The ideal that you have for most countries is, what you'd wish is that the solution comes from inside the country. You'd like that a country is able to solve its own problems. But Haiti isn't succeeding in doing that. There isn't much success in Haiti doing that. But there isn't much success with outside help either. The US has actually invaded Haiti before. They stayed in Haiti for a while. And since the earthquakes and the hurricanes in the 2010s and the 2000s earlys, there has been lots of help in Haiti. But like with each new round of help that Haiti gets, they get some more hindrance and some more harm done to them through this. It's really a testament to show you the nature of humans. To me, that's what Haiti is a case study on, to show you human nature. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere and one of the poorest countries in the world. So when people interact with Haiti, you could see what someone would do to someone who can do nothing to them and who can do nothing for them. You see wealthy people, millionaires, billionaires even, with lots of assets already to their name, and they'll go to Haiti and use Haiti as a way to launder their money. If you don't know who I'm talking about, well, go look at the former American president, one William Clinton, shortened form Bill, and his wife, and look at what they did over in Haiti. Then look at what a former minister in Trinidad and Tobago, a former FIFA official from Trinidad and Tobago, look at what he did to the Haitian funds also. And Haiti has been, as it were, a slush fund for corrupt officials all about the world. Who wants to launder their money, who wants to get a little extra, you go to Haiti and pretend you're helping and spin some money around. and take someone go. And the Haitians are none the wiser because they are there struggling. And that's something I remember. I was watching an interview with a North Korean. North Korea is in a terrible place. If you have the time, go look at some interviews. What was her? Yeonmi Park. Yeonmi. Go search up some interviews with her explaining life in North Korea. And it's terrible. But one of the things that she was pointing out is one of the ways that the government is able to continue to keep the citizens under oppression is that the citizens are so poor, they are starving, that the thoughts of revolution and political movements aren't in their mind. They don't have time to think about these things. The only thing on their mind is finding food, and that's a fact. When people are in such a downtrodden position, when you're talking about people that are struggling to live by the day-by-day basis, then they may just not have the added attention to pay to things that may be important to them. But a Haitian who is seeking food for the day-to-day life, they don't have time to think about what one of the Clintons did, what some FIFA executive did. They have to go look for food. They don't have time like me necessarily to sit and read an article and then come and speak to my screen about it. They don't have that time. So even the knowledge of how they are being abused to some extent may not be as widely known in Haiti. And with that, the abuses continue. Even before Jovenel Moises' assassination, Haiti was in crisis. The assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moises at his home threatens to exacerbate Haiti's already rampant problems. Everything that could go wrong seems to be going wrong, says Robert Fatton, an expert on Haitian politics at the University of Virginia and a native of Haiti himself. The western portion of the island of Hispaniola, Haiti, is perched in the Caribbean just 600 miles southeast of Florida. It threw off French rule with a successful revolt, becoming the first black-led republic in 1804. On my lovely Caribbean map behind me, you can see Haiti right here as part of the island of Hispaniola, the western side next to Dominican Republic. And I remember in geography back in secondary school days, a teacher was telling us that flying over the island of Hispaniola, you could actually see the separation of both of them because of the difficult state that Haiti finds themselves in. They don't treat even their natural resources with much care. When you don't have gas or oil or any other fuel to cook, the wood has to be used. And many people using wood causes deforestation, so as you'd expect. The United States has a long history of intervention there. It occupied Haiti from 1915 to 1934. The US has sent in Marines twice in the past 3 decades to restore order under Bill Clinton and then again under President George W. Bush. Even before Moises' assassination early Wednesday, Haiti was in crisis. Political instability, the lasting effects of a devastating earthquake, and a cholera epidemic. Foreign political meddling and gang violence have all taken their toll. You have this situation where the institutions are not working, where the economy is stagnated, the politics has been extremely volatile, the current government has been challenged by the population, there have been massive accusations of corruption, Fatton says. So you name it, in terms of instability and institutional decay, you have it at the moment in Haiti. So what this article does, and why I selected this article to specifically go through in this video, is the article seeks to section out the different problems that Haiti faces. The problems that they faced before this assassination, and in fact the problems that may have in fact led up to this assassination that has thrown the island into a bit of chaos. And as I said, throw the island into chaos. I've heard online and seen some people speaking about replicating such things in Trinidad and Tobago. Because, you know, when people get tied up and caught up in their own political side and the political games, they have the tendency to try to always compare everything to the worst of everything. So Trinidad is Venezuela, Trinidad is Haiti, the Prime Minister is Papa Doc, as the Senator said, or the Prime Minister is worse than the actual Hitler himself, or something like that. The exaggerations are always around. So it's no surprise when that comparison is made. But when people talk about doing things like this, what I think they don't understand is the length of instability that follows something like this. This is something that I would never wish on any nation. I do not want this in my nation, even if I do not like who is governing me right now. What I'd like is maybe if they change, and they change as peaceably as possible, because violence has a way of just carrying on more violence. So if you hear or read someone even suggesting slightly, even in a joking manner, attempting to make this suggestion in Trinidad, please inform them that they are badly mistaken and this isn't something that they'd want. You wouldn't like how something like this would actually turn out in the country. And if you are someone that is ignorant enough to be online or anywhere else speaking such ignorance and foolishness, then the chances are if such a thing does actually happen, you may be not on the safer side, judging by the level of ignorance you already have. So let's not wish for anything like this. Haiti, however, was already in constitutional crisis. The country was facing a constitutional crisis. Francois Pierre-Louis, an expert on Haitian politics at Queen's College at the City University of New York, said he wasn't surprised to learn of Moises' killing. Moises had stripped rival political parties, business people, and prominent families of power. He made a lot of enemies. The attack could have come from anywhere, and he alienated too many people. Pierre-Louis, who is originally from Haiti, told NPR. Moises took office in 2017 after a protracted and contested election. He had never before held political office. He was a businessman who had grown rich as a fruit exporter. The opposition said his term in office should have ended in February, but Moises said that because it took a year for him to officially take office, his term should be extended into 2022. The 53-year-old president had been ruling by decree for more than a year when he was killed, after dissolving parliament and failing to hold legislative elections. On July 1st, the United Nations Security Council issued a statement expressing deep concern regarding deteriorating political security and humanitarian conditions in Haiti. Moises also proposed a referendum on changes to Haiti's constitution. And I won't go through all the specific details in reading it, but what he was attempting to do was cement his place basically as permanent president. He was attempting to pass a change of Haiti's constitution to allow him to have 2 consecutive 5-year terms. The part where they were talking about he thinks he deserves another year is his election into his position as the president happened in 2016. But because of some trouble and confusion with the election process, he actually came into office in 2017. So when his term came to a legal end in February of this year, he said that because he didn't get that early year, he's going to take another year to make up for the year that he missed. So that was his plan. And even while doing that, he was cutting off his political opponents. And that negative political landscape would be combined with the fact that Haiti is seeing or has seen consecutive natural disasters. It's still struggling to recover from a crippling earthquake. In 2010, Haiti was devastated by an earthquake whose main shock rattled the ground for nearly 30 seconds. At least 220,000 people are estimated to have died, and some 1.5 million people were displaced. About 300,000 were injured, and large parts of the country were buried under tons of twisted metal and concrete, as NPR reported. The earthquake destroyed Haiti's infrastructure, and that infrastructure has yet to be really rebuilt. So Haiti was poor before the earthquake. The earthquake came and decimated the infrastructure, which would have already been inadequate. And a poor country with already inadequate infrastructure that is now devastated, and they are attempting to rebuild this infrastructure, and while they are attempting to rebuild it, they are being constantly hemmed in at different sides by persistent corruption in their political class. It's something like a perfect nightmare over in Haiti, and you really feel it for them. Combined with that, on top of this, we aren't finished yet with the different things that were affecting Haiti from before the assassination. A devastating cholera outbreak. The earthquake was followed by another deadly force, cholera. And I'm going to explain this to you in my own words, because when I read this, I found it very interesting. Do you know how Haiti got that cholera outbreak? Well, they got it by the UN peacekeeping mission. The UN soldiers that went to Haiti to keep the peace after the earthquakes and after all that destruction, those soldiers went there to keep the peace. They were doing a good thing. At least that's what we were supposing or hoping. But in fact, they brought cholera to the island, and somewhere around 800,000 people were affected by it. And going up the road to 10,000 people, at least known, were killed. No doubt, knowing Haiti, that number may be severely underestimated because they may not have proper tracking of those numbers. So the UN peacekeeping force that came there to help Haiti diseased the island. That just reminded me so much back to the colonial days when so many of the colonists did the same to people that they came and met in some of these islands. But that wasn't the only negative thing of the UN peacekeeping force. These men, and they were mostly men, went to an island where the leadership in the island was non-existent. So they became a law unto themselves. And if you leave humans as laws unto themselves, usually bad things happen. And bad things did happen. So they didn't only leave Haiti with cholera, they left Haiti with many single mothers. And some of those single mothers may have been assaulted or would have been assaulted by these same UN peacekeeping mission soldiers. So even when we're looking for the solution, the way out, okay, we'd like to get UN involved again. The UN has to go in to help them. Well, we're seeing the kind of help that the UN gives to them. And that's just the problem. What I was saying in the very beginning. When you're looking at Haiti, when we're inspecting Haiti, all the different problems we're seeing very obvious over in Haiti. The problem with all of these problems is what exactly is the solution? And what happens in places like Haiti, in many of these countries, although they are so poor as a country, as an entirety, a country, whether it be poor or not, still has a lot of resources moving through. So there's still a lot of opportunity for many people to make money. And the lack of proper political and governmental structure in Haiti allowed for gangs to proliferate. And that's obvious. It's an obvious next step. If there's a power vacuum, powerful people come in to take their place in that vacuum. And gangs have done that. Gangs run rampant. Gangs have become a scourge in the capital of Port-au-Prince. A recent UN report said 5,000 people have been displaced by gang violence just in the first 10 days of June. You're hearing those two numbers. 5,000 people displaced. That's a high number. But in the first 10 days of June, that's less than 2 weeks in 1 month. Gang violence has taken hold in Haiti. And chances are, as this article also says later down, that as this president has been assassinated and you have the proliferation of gangs all about the country, what is going to happen is there's going to be a power struggle. And chances are, I'm hoping that this isn't what we're going to see, but I wouldn't be surprised if over the next couple weeks, the next couple days, the next couple months, maybe even year, Haiti may have a scourge of violence, an upswing of violence, because there will be different people struggling to get their hands on different parts of power. And as I said, although Haiti is poor and although the country may be struggling, there is still a lot of power and resources to be had in that struggling poor country. And there are people that are going to be fighting for it. So let's hope for the best for Haiti. Pray for the best for Haiti. And don't forget to click like on this video if you haven't done that yet. Comment and tell me what you think about this story. And don't forget to share it also. If you think that this is an important story, these are important events that everyone should be aware of, then share it to people that you think should know about it. And I'll see you tomorrow for the next video. Kenya.
And you feel the music, rising with the time.